Then I put an application in at the Times Herald newspaper. So I thought that would be a better job than to work for the drugstore. So I and my brother applied at the Times Herald for a job, and the man hired us. And I stayed at Times Herald 20 years. Then the Washington Post bought the Times Herald, and then they carried me up to the Washington Post. I worked there 20 years. Make 40 years I worked for a newspaper company. And then, by me growing up from 15 to 17 and 18, I started going to the Byway Church on 1130 New Jersey Avenue. I joined the Byway when I was 16 years old. From that time, when I joined the Byway to now, made 72 years, I believe, 72 years.
Wow.
I've been in the church 72 years. Haven't given the church a minute's trouble. And then, my wife, she was an usher then. I watched her from a little girl on up and married her when she was 17. This is my wife that I was married to for 50 years. And she was a good religious woman. Sometimes a man get a good religious woman, he got himself something. And I loved her and she loved me. We had 5 children, and every one of them is doing fine. And I got a lot of grandchildren, but we had to count them up. And all the grandchildren are good children. Now this is, over here's my picture when I was a young man. And I worked, saved my money, and did good. And helped raise the family, kept the family together. And they all of them prospered. And they, see this tree here? I raised that tree from a little tree about 6 inches tall when she died. And I raised it. It got to be that big. And yeah, this is my picture when I was young and handsome. But you know, when you're young, you take care of yourself, you look good when you get old. So that's my picture when I was young and handsome. I don't know how handsome I am now. You all have to tell me. So that's that. And this is my this is my picture before I got married. When you're young, you're young. When you're old, you're old. Oh, you got it? That's good. Yeah, before I was married.
How old was you in that picture?
Huh?
How old was you?
I was here. I was about 30 years old, I guess. About 30 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. When I was at work, they made you wear a paper hat made from a newspaper so that they can identify that you work there. When you got your paper hat on, you work here. If you didn't have your paper hat on, he'd ask who is you? He said this paper hat would identify you at the company you work for. And so I learned how to make them. I make my own paper hats now.
What year was this?
That was during the 50s and the 40s.
And what company? What company you was working for?
The Washington Post.
Okay.
The Washington Post. I know I got it here. Anytime you can remember when United States flag. That's a United States flag when I was young.
Mm. Yeah.
You got it?
Yep.
But look at the flag now.
Got more stars.
Yeah. When you get 90 years old, you know you done seen something. Now you have.
Yeah.
Huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you've been through the 60s.
Huh?
Been through the 60s, the 30s, right?
Yeah. No. I was born in 1916.
Okay. But you remember do you remember like the Great Depression, or do you
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, the Great Depression.
I remember all that.
Yeah, the Civil Rights Movement.
Oh, yeah, I remember all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to figure out what happened, what major happened in the 50s.
In the 50s?
Yeah.
In the 50s, let's see.
Anything major?
Was a war in the 50s? No. Civil Rights Movement.
Was in
If Martin Luther King was...
60s, yeah. That's the 60s.
Yeah,
I remember that.
He was
You probably remember when the walk to Washington.
Yeah.
The March on Washington.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. His assassination.
Yeah. I remember when Martin Luther King got shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was you doing? Oh.
I was working for a newspaper company.
Okay.
We was first one noted.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Mm.
Before it come out in the paper.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. So you see, that's like with me, with the mail, I get a lot of news early.
Early, yeah.
Yeah, before the public even know about it.
It's showing up, that's
Yeah,
right.
so it's, when you working with the Washington Post, you get a lot of news media stuff early.
Early.
It's before this internet thing and all the news
when
people
Kennedy
know
got
about.
shot,
Yeah.
we know before the newspaper got it.
Mm.
Because the people come down and tell we just caught the news, President Kennedy got killed.
Mm.
Come down and tell everybody, see.
Yeah.
Before it even got in the paper. When I was young in the country, I used to go down to a silo. You know what a silo is? The thing that keep food in for the cows.
Okay.
And they grind green corn in the fall of the year before the corn turned brown.
Mm-hmm.
Fill the silo up.
Okay.
And when we moved there, the silo was empty.
Mm-hmm.
That was my praying ground. Go down the silo. When you go down the silo, every word you say, the silo would answer you back. That's why I like to pray in the silo.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to go down the silo by myself all the time. But my cat had a little kitten, and I named the little kitten Tommy. I raised him to a big cat, and he'd follow me to the silo. I carried the cat down there 5 times, and then he knew where I was going when I come out the house. He'd lead me to the prayer. And then I'd go down there and have prayer in the morning, and come on back, get ready for school, which I had to walk 5 miles. But just the same, I made it through. Well, I moved in a neighborhood, and the neighborhood was a poor neighborhood. Some women had 5 little boys running around there with the hair looking bullet. So I'd take it up to cut the hair. I didn't charge but 25 cents.
And what year was this?
That year was 1946.
Mm.
And I stayed in projects 17 years.
So, was my mother about 1 year old at the time?
Huh?
Was my mother about 1 year old when you started cutting hair?
Yeah, your mother was about 1 year old.
Yeah.
Even 2 years old.
Okay.
And I started cutting hair. The little children in the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't charge them about a quarter because their mother didn't have no money hardly.
Okay.
And therefore, some of them didn't have no money. I went to one house to cut the little boy's hair, and the little children hadn't had nothing to eat all day long.
Mm.
So when I got there to cut the hair, first thing they said, "Mr. Moore, we haven't had no dinner." So I asked, "Where your mother at?" She's in the other room. I went in there where she was at and asked her questions why she hadn't had. She said, "My husband didn't come home last night and ain't been home all day long." I said, "Well, how much would it cost to get a meal for the children?" She said, well, they like bologna. She said, you can give me a pound and a half of bologna
Mm-hmm.
in a gallon of orange juice, and then some lettuce and mayonnaise and a loaf of bread. She said, they'll have a good dinner. So the children went down to the store and got the food that she ordered. They come back, they had a nice meal. I let them eat the dinner. Then I cut all of them's hair.
Mm.
She said, I ain't got no money to pay you. I said, well, that's all right about money. We just talk about that later.
Mm-hmm.
And I cut them children's hair, got them looking good, and fed them.
Mm.
And, and that was that. And
Well,
then I used to cut the neighbors' children's hair real often, because some of them had 5 and 6 children.
mm-hmm.
And then I kept the haircuts in the neighborhood good. And they still remember me. When I moved from there, some of them were little, and one of them got a job driving the trash truck, and he recognized me coming down the street, stopped the trash truck right in the middle of the street,
Mm.
and come over and give me a hug.
Mm.
He was so glad to see me.
Nice.
And then he had grown up to be a good-sized young fella, and he still remember me.
And what neighborhood was this? This was around
Huh?
Northeast. Was this in Northeast?
No, it was up here when I moved up here. He was on a trash truck,
Oh, okay.
right up Decatur Street.
Okay.
I was coming down Decatur Street from a street up there. Anyhow, I was coming down that street. I got off the bus and coming on down the street, New Hampshire Avenue.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Coming on down the street, and he was driving, working on the trash truck, and he remembered me.
Mm-hmm.
He stopped that trash truck right in the middle of the street and come over and gave me a hug, because he knew I was good to his family.
Yeah.
So that's the way it is. Life is peculiar.
Mm-hmm.
You got to keep on going with the Lord to make it.
Mm-hmm.
So, Lord, the Bible said He give a man 70 years. That was supposed to be the limit of a man on this planet, 70 years.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're good, He'll lend your time out. And I know that for sure, because I lived a good life. Now I'm 90, and I'm proud of it. I'm still going, and I'm happy.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I hope to go further to get 100 and something.
This is Phelps. This is where Daddy came to get a certificate. He used to outcut any barber in Northeast Washington. But one particular barber's name was Mr. Bullock, and he was on the corner of Division Avenue. And he one day just Daddy outcut him so much, it made him angry. And he wanted to send the police after Daddy. So what came out of that, they made Daddy get a certificate because Daddy was self-taught. He really never went to school. But he cut hair over 30 years. He went house to house, to everybody's house that was in need. If children needed a haircut, he would go house to house and cut the children's hair. And Daddy did that over 30 years. He cut hair. When we moved, he was cutting hair at 505 51st Street, right there in Lincoln Heights. He cut hair there in the hallway. And my sisters, Clarice and Patricia and Geraldine, used to make little cards for him with the little boys' names on it. And then from there, he wanted to stay out there. So he started cutting hair in the same house that we moved out of. He became friends with the people that were living there. He cut hair there. Then from there, he cut hair at Mrs. Potts' house. And she was right on Division Avenue. And each day, he went house to house to people who needed him to cut their hair. He went house to house. But Daddy, it was a blessing because of the fact he bought his home from cutting hair, because he just saved and saved and saved. And the only thing we can remember, and I can remember, my father had 3 jobs. He worked for the Washington Post. That was his main job. He was self-taught of cutting hair. And he worked for the Hope Brooks in Chevy Chase. He did yard work for them.
I remember when I could have at Miss Irma's house upstairs, so I wasn't scared of no police, nothing else, because she shut that upstairs door, they couldn't go back. So anyhow, I cut at Miss Irma's house about 5 years, I believe, and then I was cutting the fella's hair. He lived on Division Avenue. His name Mr. Potts. Mr. Potts said, "You don't have to cut hair upstairs in this little close room. Come on down around to my house in my basement." He had a good sized basement. So I could get everybody in the basement, get chairs around the wall. They could sit and wait. You know, wait for a haircut. If I cut this hair down, who's next? And the other one knows who was next. He said, him. And that's how I get rid of the children fast.
Well, didn't one time someone slip you $1 that was marked?
Yeah, that was old when I was at my house. The police knocked on the door and
Slipped you $1?
no,
One of the kids?
One of the kids had
one of the kids, it was Bullock's son did it.
Sure did.
Bullock's son did it. And boys beat him up too. He got a good whooping for doing it. But anyhow, Sonny Hall was letting people in for me to cut the hair, you know. But he was never saying who it was, you know.
Right.
When the door knocked,
Right.
Sonny Hall let him in.
Right.
So he's come to get a haircut. Two big old police coming in with badges on, you know. And he said, "Don't speak to Mr. Moore." I was in the back. I was in the back. I was in the back of the kitchen. Yeah. I just had finished cutting his hair and let him out the front back door. Then I guess the back door police told me, "Yeah, it's coming out. The Bullock boys are coming out." So he handed police the change again. No, I had the $1.
Yeah.
And then he come in and asked me, say, "You Mr. Moore?" I said, "Yeah."